Coming up on Bloom, behavioral scientist Dr. Gina Kalora shares how to cope with empty nest syndrome.
You're entering a whole new chapter of your life, right? One that was previously defined by your role as a parent, and now you're kind of back to square one where it's just you and your partner, and life looks a lot different.
And my husband Mark and I learn how to adapt as a couple. Plus, in the countdown to Paris, meet 1972 U.S. Olympian Jeff Galloway, who's sharing how it changed his life. We'll have all that and more as Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, starts now. I'm Gayle Guyardo. Welcome to Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging. There's a phenomenon known as empty nest syndrome that researchers now know can impact you with tremendous grief. Joining me now with how to cope when your kids leave home is behavioral scientist Dr. Gino Kalora. It's so good to see you, Dr. Gino.
Gayle, always a pleasure.
So, Dr. Gino, I didn't realize this until I started researching, but people feel grief, loss, fear. There's so much that goes into this.
It's a very real shedding of skin, right? You're entering a whole new chapter of your life, right? One that was previously defined by your role as a parent, and now you're kind of back to square one where it's just you and your partner, and life looks a lot different.
And why is adjusting to change at home so hard for people?
This is a really important question, right? And the thing here is adjusting to change in general in life is difficult. But when we start talking about adjusting to change when it comes to the thing or things, our children, that we care about the most in this world, it's a big piece of us, right? It's literally our heart walking around, right, that we're looking at any given time. And now they're no longer part of our lives every day. So our normal, it shifts, right? And being able to adjust to a new normal, it's really, really difficult, especially when we're talking about the inner depth of emotions and connections when it comes to our children.
Yeah, because I mean, scientifically, the cells of your child, because I did so much deep digging into this, live inside you. Like,
Yes.
they are part of you even after they're born.
That's exactly, you will carry that with you right until you die, right? There are certain areas, right, in your body where those cells are stored and they don't leave. So in a very real sense, that connection, right, it surpasses anything like we've ever seen or experienced with other friends or family members, but our children, our offspring, it's different, right?
So how can couples build a new normal?
Yeah, so when we start talking about building a new chapter in our lives, right, we have to remember first and foremost, it was the two of you before it was the three of you or the four of you, right? You have to go back to understand, why did you fall in love in the first place? What is it that fed that connection, that nurtured this belonging, this need to want to be with one another? Because look, it's so easy to forget that. We get caught up in work and sports and kids and going from one thing to another. We forget who we are as an individual, let alone who we are as a couple, because look, we're mom and dad, and that's what we're focusing on. So we have to go back to that. So number one, start making the time, right? And here's the thing, you may not want to. You may not have the drive or the motivation because maybe you're feeling a little depressed. Maybe you're feeling sad, and you just don't have that umph to want to go out and have dinner with your partner, go to a movie, whatever that case is. But you have to make it happen. You have to put in the work. You have to maintain the commitment.
And if you don't, because a lot of times you hear these stories, man, as soon as those kids are out of the house, you know, the spouses go their separate ways, which is so sad. You've spent a whole lifetime, a chapter of life together, and then you...
That's exactly right. And it's a really sad thing because here's the reality of it. Look, when we are talking about empty nester syndrome, like, first and foremost, it's not a clinical issue, right? It's a very real shift. It's a very real change, but it's not a clinical problem. So you will see most parents be able to adjust within 2 to 3 months, right? Those 2 to 3 months are a little difficult. It's definitely hard. But when we start getting to the 6-7 month period, if that feeling of sadness, that feeling of depression is still there, we need to unpack a little bit more, all right? And maybe it's worth going to go talk to a professional at that point, because it's not so much about the empty nester syndrome at that point. Maybe there truly is depression. Maybe there is some sort of anxiety that's going on that having kids all those years kind of masked and kind of built up a wall around it, but maybe it's always been there and you never realized it because you were so preoccupied doing other things, right? But typically most parents can get past that particular chapter in 2 to 3 months and rekindle that love, rekindle that relationship and that intimacy to going back to being happy and having fun.
Yeah, because, you know, for a lot of us, being a parent becomes our identities. So you might think, oh man, maybe my spouse won't love me as much. They won't feel the same way about me if they don't see me in this role.
It is such an important thing because, like you said, the number one thing here, Gayle. So there's a fear. There's a fear of the what if. What if they don't look at me the same way? I'm carrying a few extra pounds more than what I used to, right? I look a little bit different. I don't have the same energy levels, right? But at the same token, my goodness, what you have done together and what you have been able to build to be able to get your children to a level of independence to leave the nest, to relish in that and to be able to appreciate that in one another, it's a beautiful thing, right? So now you actually have a building block into that next chapter that allows you to say, wow, we accomplished that together. Imagine what life's gonna look like between the two of us now and what we can accomplish for one another.
Yeah, I think too, you talked about the change aspect of this. It's like, you don't want to change what you have because, and hopefully in most cases, it's been so beautiful. But, what I think a lot of us don't realize, because I'm getting closer and closer to that empty nest space in life, is that the next chapter might be just as fulfilling because it will be grandchildren, it will be different relationships with your kids.
And this is the really interesting part. Most kids think that, my gosh, when I leave, my parents are going to be devastated. The truth of the matter is, after a couple months, most parents are doing just fine.
They're having,
really? They're having a ball. They're having a blast, right? But you have to give yourself that grace, that understanding the next couple of months are going to be a little rough, right? But if I know that and my partner knows that and we can work through it together, my goodness, what's waiting for you on the other side is wonderful.
All right, well, there is so much more to talk about. So Dr. Gino is sticking around for a discussion with my husband, Mark, about how empty nest syndrome can impact your marriage. Bloom will be right back. You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, saving lives through early detection. Call now, 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. Living the Tampa Bay lifestyle means enjoying the sand, sun, and outdoors fun. So get out, get active, and nurture those healthy habits. Hey there, I'm Gayle Guyardo, host of Bloom. Now there's a new all-inclusive place with everything you need to shape your lifestyle, boost your health, and improve your wellness. BloomTampaBay.com, Tampa Bay's premier health and wellness website, made to help you feel good. Whether you're a fitness fanatic, beauty buff, or just want to take your first step towards positive change, this free website is for you. See the Bay Area's hottest fitness products, the latest workout crazes, and learn nutrition tips from the experts. Plus, discover local events and experiences designed with your well-being in mind. Cultivate a healthy mind, body, and soul. Check out BloomTampaBay.com, your local health and wellness website. That's BloomTampaBay.com. Welcome back. For many of us, a big chunk of our lives are dedicated to being there for others, our kids, extended family. The list goes on and on. But what happens when the dust settles and it's just you and your spouse? Joining me now to discuss are my husband, Mark Pichowski, and behavioral scientist, Dr. Gino Calora. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for coming, honey.
Of course.
So we're at the cusp. We have one more left at home. And we're looking at this through two very different lenses. I am sick inside, and Mark, you kind of believe like, hey, we've dedicated our entire marriage to raising kids. It's time for us now. And so what are your thoughts?
So not uncommon at all, right? Especially for mom and dad to kind of be on different sides of the playing field when we're talking about the little ones becoming adults and going off to college, and it's like, wow, like this newfound sense of liberation and freedom where it's like, we get time to be together, right? We get to go out and have fun and do all the things we used to do. But that's the key word there, what we used to do, right? So in a very real sense, a lot of times, mom, right, you get into this place of, those are my babies, I've nurtured them for so long, and they are part of my normal, right? I don't know what life looks like without them, right? Or dad sometimes like, the responsibility, right? Everything that comes along day in and day out of being a protector and a provider, and now they're their own person and they know what to do. We've taught them, I have confidence in that. Honey, it's time for us to go have some fun, right? And there's a bit of a disconnection.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think my thoughts are just like you said. I think it's time for us to be a little bit, I think I use the word selfish.
Sure.
A little bit, because we've taken care of 4 kids our whole entire marriage. So now it's time to kind of plan a little bit, travel, have that flexibility. Of course, we're always going to be there for our kids, but now it's time for them to take the next phase of their life and grow into young adults, and let us have a little bit of time also to ourselves to plan what we want to do for our next chapter.
I guess I like all the hubbub in the house, the friendship, because we do have 4 daughters, so that makes it, a little bit, it changes the dynamics. So I'm actually scared about it. Like I get knots in my stomach just having this conversation right now, which you probably think is crazy.
Crazy.
Really?
Absolutely. I'm fine. I'm totally calm right now. This is a very normal.
No, but this is so common, right? Like, so don't think that you're an outlier, because you're not. Like, this is a very common thing, right? So like a big consideration here is, what do you want your next chapter to look like, right? And so, Gayle, where you're at right now, it's very much in the throes of, this is a really big change, and my day in, day out, like, these children who have become their own person, and now we've had this great friendship and these wonderful conversations day in and day out. I don't get to have that anymore, and you're a bit heartbroken about it, right? And you're sad, right? But at the same token, it opens up a door of opportunity for that much more time to be spending with Mark, right? And learning new things together, doing new things together. Now, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Change is never easy. It's always difficult, right? Our brains don't like it in a very real sense. But with every moment of change comes a moment of opportunity, right? And a moment of opportunity of growth for the two of you, right? But you do have to work through this. Like, there is no easy answer on this one, right? You have to be committed to working through the process of adjustment of what life is going to be, right? But as long as you guys are committed to one another, as long as you guys are looking ahead and have some semblance of excitement about what the future holds with all the work that you've put in, you'll get through just fine.
Oh man, all right. Well, I'm gonna take your words on it. Are there a few ways that that you could suggest that we can adapt? Do you have any like homework for us?
100%, right? So first and foremost, goal setting, right? So let me ask you guys this, right? Have you set goals with your kids that have gone to college already?
Yeah.
When they left, did you set some new goals for one another with the extra time that it gave you guys?
No, because I feel like then the little two, kind of the younger ones, kind of
Occupy that
stepped
space.
into that space. So there really hasn't been a ton of, because you know how kids are, they kind of get autonomous a little bit before they leave.
Yeah.
Now we have one more. We have a 16-year-old, so we're still 2 solid years away from empty nest syndrome. My big fear is when that child walks out the door, then what? Like, don't you think there's going to be a huge void?
But they'll come back. I mean, they're not gone forever. Right? They're always going to come back. They're always going to visit. You go visit them. It's just a different chapter and a different structure. And you might be able to spend even more quality time with your kids, because when you're then with them, you're condensing that time with them as opposed to living with them and they got their friends.
That's
and
right.
They're running in different directions. You're running in different directions. So I just think it's going to be different, but there is going to be that energy void in the house that is lost with anybody leaving the household.
Such a good point, right? And one thing I definitely want to encourage you to do, Gayle, right, is be very careful, right, with smothering. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean it in a negative way, right? But getting on the phone on the group chat and texting your daughters every day, like, what's going on with this? How are you feeling with that?
No, I'm already doing that.
Right, and by the way, and I know you do, right, because it's a very normal thing, right? But it's also something you have to regulate, right? Because you're fostering still a sense of dependence there, right? Of having that line of communication, right? So yes, you have that friendship, yes, you have that bond, but at the same token, when they're talking to you, they're talking to mom, right? And you want them to continuously spread their wings as individuals, right? Yes, you both are always gonna be there, but to give them a little more slack and say, look, maybe I will go 1 day a week without talking to them today, right? See how it goes, work into it, right? But what you don't wanna do is consistently have those doses every single day. Oh, I gotta tell them this, I have to tell them that. You don't have to tell them, right?
Can I check my Life 360?
See where they're
Can I
at?
at least see where they
I
are?
think that's doable. I think that's doable.
I mean, Dr. Gino, even the dog is now like, because we've just had our 18-year-old leave the house. She started FSU summer session. Even the dog runs upstairs every day too to see where she is and where the cat went.
Sure, of course.
So I mean, it's hard.
No, it really is, right? But remember, all change is hard, right? And you're dealing with the most difficult level of change, right? And that is a shift in the relationship you have with your children, right? They literally came from you guys, right? So they're a piece of you, right? But they're not all of you. So I think that's a really big thing to remember, right? That's not the entirety of your identity. There's so much more.
There's the one. Look, there's the little one that's still left. She
yeah.
calls herself the chosen one because she's the only one left. The one thing I do think, and if people have young kids like you do, Dr. Gino, the one thing I think that you and I have done well is we've always made time for us throughout the years of raising kids. You know, that's so important because I don't feel like I'm waking up, you know, close to empty nester syndrome, being like, who are you? Like, what are you still doing here? Which does happen to a lot of people.
Look, that's the biggest thing. The fact that you guys have continuously nurtured one another, right, throughout all these years, right? Maybe it's not as much pouring into one another as you would like, right? But it's as much as you could give. But you made the effort to give, which means that the lines of communication, you still know each other well. You still have fun together. You still take trips. Like, all those things, they go into a pot, right? And all the ingredients of all those small deposits absolutely will make or break once those kids leave, right? And the good news is that you guys are in a great place, right? So you're going to get through it just fine.
I think you're right. It still puts a pit in my stomach. We're going to share all of this with you on BloomTampaBay.com. And teen life coach Desiree Panlilio is joining the conversation, weighing in on how to embrace the shift as children enter adulthood. We'll be right back. You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, saving lives through early detection. Call now, 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. We are back talking about the next chapter of life, of how to pivot when the kids are gone and embrace the shifts as kids enter adulthood. Behavioral scientist Dr. Gina Calora is back alongside teen life coach Desiree Panlilio, and my amazing husband, Mark Pachowski, got drawn into this conversation, so he is here too. So we do have a couple questions. The first one is for you, Dr. Gino, and you've kind of talked about this, but how can parents embrace this next chapter, even if they're on separate, you know, sides of the fence of being an empty nester? Me being really sick about it and him being like, woohoo, we're almost to the finish line.
Right, so it's always a question of commitment, right? And when you go through the process of raising children together, right, obviously massive commitment, but what was the commitment that came before your kids? It was the commitment to the two of you. So if you hold on to that and you nurture it, right? And Gayle, you said something so important as well. This idea of, look, throughout the years that you're raising your kids, don't forget to nurture one another, right? Make time for those date nights, have that communication. It's exceedingly important because you're gonna change, you're gonna adapt, right? Life's gonna throw all kinds of curveballs, and we have to be able to kind of flow with it, right? You don't wanna be kind of a hard stop on anything, so you have to have that ability. So when it comes to that, you have to have plasticity in your life. And so when the kids go out, hey, guess what? A new pivot is here, so let's embrace it because it's not going to change, right? So with open arms, embrace it.
Now, I have to ask you, I mean, are you at all concerned? Because you know how like antsy I am. I always have to be doing something.
Right.
And does that dead space that's going to be there when the kids are all gone, does that concern you at all? Because you know I'm going to have to direct all my attention
to
then.
me? To me and the dog?
Yes. Can we get another dog?
See, she wants another dog. Anything to keep your ADD going, right?
That's exactly right.
I am concerned for you a little bit, but I think you're going to feel like you're going to put something in that void. You're going to do something that creates activity that you wouldn't normally do, that you're just going to fill it, and then you're going to go ahead and, whether it's activities or being with your friends or taking up a sport. I mean, you're gonna find things because that's the way.
Pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball with happy feet.
Yeah, I like that. So, Desiree, you're a teen coach. You work with parents and kids, especially in the stages leading up to empty nesthood. What do you find through all of this?
The big thing is communication, right? Your kid's going to communicate less with you as they grow up, and that's just reality, right? You have one going off to college, you have older kids. They're not going to be texting and calling you 3-4 times a day, and that's okay, and be okay with it as parents. And then if all of a sudden they're calling you every day or texting you and going, Mom this, Mom that, then it's really a check-in time. Then it's that time that maybe something's a little amiss, and maybe I need to have a conversation. Maybe I need to get on the phone, do a FaceTime call, whatever it is. But that communication just changes as they start to identify with their own friend group and their own friends, and that's okay. So don't think it's anything you did as a parent, and don't push them. You know, don't force yourself to be calling them 6-7 times a day with everything, because they want to kind of have their independence, their own moment in their own life.
Yeah, I think, and we're right now in the very early stages, days, weeks of Allie being gone. And I think we both have been tempted, even last night, we were like,
We texted her. Well, because you're like, should I text her and
Or
let her know that
we're thinking
hey,
about her?
we're still here, we want to make sure that you're okay, or do you let her kind of text
Yeah, we
you
don't know what
first,
to
you know,
do.
so you kind of play that game in your mind.
But it's okay to text them as long as you're not like texting them. I think you'd probably agree. Hi, I miss you. I'm desperately lonely without you, right? Like, I can't believe, or texting them because they're at a frat party at 11 p.m. and going, hey, Allie, what are you doing up at 11 p.m.?
I just checked the Life 360. It doesn't look like you're at the dorm.
Yeah, so what are you doing? So maybe it's having those things that say, hey, did you have a good day? And her response is, I had a great day and I'm going out with my friends. That's the end of the conversation. Or she calls you and goes, oh, I had a bad day. This is what happened. Then you're there. It's letting them lead the conversation further. So there's nothing wrong with texting. Just kind of temper your expectations if she's not going to have a 2-hour conversation with you. It might be 2 minutes, I'm good, or it might be, oh, I had a cruddy day. And I think you can probably agree, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you're a behavioral scientist. I mean, you know how the mind works, and sometimes we're on just different, levels of what we're thinking. And he and I both are like, do we text her? Do we let her know we love her? Or do we wait for her to tell us that she loves us? Like, we don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing there is, and you said a key word here, right? So levels, right? There's levels and layers to every relationship. It doesn't matter if it's your spouse or your child, your friends, it doesn't matter. So when it comes to this particular topic, though, you raised such a good point, right? Let them lead the charge, right? If they need you, and you're going to know, you're going to have that intuition, right? But outside of that, let them go and be. Right, and when the time comes, and if they need you, they're going to let you know. You're going to pick up on those cues. But until then, don't ruminate on it. Right, continue to push forward.
Now, Desiree, do you ever work with parents where the kid goes off to college and then there is a little difficulty adjusting on the child's side, and then you have to guide them as to what to do? Does that ever happen?
Sometimes, and it's usually that first semester up until Thanksgiving. That seems to be like this magical moment. They go off to college, whether they start summer session or anything. All of a sudden, it's this new norm for them, and usually they're really good. But all of a sudden, around Thanksgiving, they start to miss home. They want to come home, which is a great time to come home for all kids. Or if there's Parents Weekend, I tell every parent if their kid goes off to college first year and there's Parents Weekend, go. It's a hard stop, right? You're going. You want to be there because everyone's parents are there. You don't want to be the parent that doesn't go. So you want to be there. You want to see their life. You want to be excited. You drop them off at college. Now you're going up for Parents Weekend. Now they're introducing you to their new friends or their new place that they found, or they're walking into their classroom, or you see one of their professors. They're excited about their new life. So this is your time to be excited with them and giving them that encouragement. And I think that's really important. So I see that sometimes kids they're missing home. They need some pom-poms and some cheerleading more than anything.
Oh, pom-poms and cheerleading. Sign me up for that. Well, I think at the end of the day, after all this conversation, even though there's grief and loss and all these different emotional feelings, it's all going to be okay at the end. So thank you guys both for being here. Honey, we always look for excuses to have you on the show.
Of course, I love it.
All right, we're going to share this story on BloomTampaBay.com, and coming up on Bloom, we'll have your countdown to Paris with Olympian distance runner Jeff Galloway, who is now the official training consultant for Run Disney. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bloom. We are counting down to Paris. It's hard to believe the Summer Olympics are right around the corner. Joining me now is U.S. Olympian distance runner Jeff Galloway, who is also an official training consultant for Run Disney. Jeff, it's so great to see you.
Oh, great to see you, and great to be on the show.
Yeah, we're so excited. I mean, it's hard to believe it's right around the corner, but we just want to talk to you on a personal level. How did competing in the Olympics change your life?
Well, it was a major change for me. I really wasn't sure that I was going to be able to make the team, especially in 1972. But I put together the training. I had great mentors and athletes and coaches, and I did some amazing performances leading up to and then in the Olympic trials. And it was just an amazing experience to be part of this amazing event, which is the oldest organized athletic event in the history of the world, starting back 776 BC.
Wow, that is incredible. And you believe that the Olympics is way more than just a sporting event.
It's much more. What happens is the pursuit of excellence is the theme. And I got caught up in this because I did not have a direct career path coming out of the military, 1970, and I just decided that I wanted to try to do the best I possibly could. And I got into a whole series of things such as the diet, the mental preparation, and I saw all the other athletes doing this too. And when you get part of a community like that, it's sort of like the tide rises everybody there. And it's just an amazing experience.
You know, and what's also interesting to me is that your own experience has kind of carried you through the rest of your life. I mean, you weren't really born in, like, you didn't think you were a natural born athlete, but you became one, and now you're helping other people do the same.
I realized quite soon after I got into running that there were some things going on in my brain for positive good that had never happened before. Better attitude, more energy throughout the day and afterwards, the empowerment to overcome challenges that I normally would not undertake. And as a result of going through this excellent experience, it really did change my life. And I wanted, after I made the Olympic team, to parlay this to others, to help others experience these lifestyle changes. Now, I wasn't trying to train people, say at the Run Disney races, to go to the Olympics. But when they achieve these events at the Run Disney events, they get similar feelings that Olympic athletes get. The achievement, accomplishment, and it truly changes their lives. And I am the beneficiary of hearing thousands of stories every single Run Disney weekend about what people have been able to do by following my training schedules.
Well, Jeff, I have to tell you, it's always such a pleasure catching up with you, and we appreciate your insight about it's more than just a sporting event. It is just a life-changing moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gayle.
And we're going to share Jeff's story on BloomTampaBay.com. And before we go to break, it's time for today's Bloom Trivia question. How much of the menu served to athletes at the Summer Olympics this year will be sourced from France? 50, 80, or 100%? We'll have the answer later on Bloom. You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging. We begin where your checkup ends. Call now, 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. Welcome back, and save the date. It's wedding season. If you've been there, done that, you know wedding season can be a joyful yet overwhelming experience. Joining me now to help you discover strategies for setting boundaries to ensure you don't overcommit and feel overwhelmed is the author of the soon-to-be-released book, The Highway to Health, Writing the Road to Better Boundaries. Anastasia Turchetta, it is so great to see you.
I'm honored to be back. Thank you.
So this is a big one, especially since it is wedding season. So how do you prioritize wedding events?
It's such a great question, and I think we almost have to strategically look at this. So you're looking at ceremonies and showers and engagement parties, and maybe even something that's more different. Some cultures have multi-day events. So how do you prioritize that? And that would be, what is your relationship? Is it an immediate family member? Is it an extended family member? Are they a close friend, acquaintance, a colleague? Kind of look at that. Then your next thing would be location, right? Like, are you going to travel to these events, or is it a destination wedding? What does that look like for you? Finally, you're going to look at finances. And then the other thing, you want to make sure that you have it in the budget, because boundaries not only help us avoid saying yes to the stress, but boundaries also mean budgets.
Okay, so and like you said, because it costs a lot of money
Yes.
to go to the wedding. So what are some realistic strategies for us to keep in mind?
You know, as I was looking, because I'm like, what is the proper or etiquette, if you would, when you go to a shower? How, you know, what does that look like for a shower gift, a wedding gift, your travel accommodations, and then you have to look at the extra part of that. So a way to budget for that would be generally a shower gift is in between $25 and $75. A wedding gift is in between $100 and $200. It depends upon your relationship, obviously. And then you're looking at wedding attire. I mean, I've got a wedding coming up, and I got to tell you, I wanted a new dress. You know what I mean?
I don't blame you.
You're looking at it, you want a new dress. You want to look nice, right? So there's a wedding attire. Your travel accommodations, oh my goodness, that's airfare, Uber, car rental, hotel, food. Look into things like that so you can include this in your budget. And then of course, if you have kids and maybe, you might need a babysitter, or for us, we have a furry kid. So you're looking at dog boarding, and that's also something to look into that because that can be expensive overall. So the message and the boundaries you want to look at are what is nice to attend and what do I need to attend.
Okay. Now, what are some areas that are vital to set communication boundaries and just boundaries in general?
You know, it's funny because we don't think about it, but I would say look at your accommodations, because when you come into town and it's family gets excited. I'm going to see you. You're going to stay with us. Or they could say, Gayle and Mark, you're local. Can you host these individuals? And sometimes we have to make sure we're not overcommitting because it's an emotional strain. A lot of emotions are riding on wedding days, whether you are the bride or you're coming in as a guest. So you want to make sure you're looking at accommodations. So for us, we're going to a wedding that's out of town, and we just needed our own space. So maybe even though you stay with family, a boundary could be, or what to say would be, hey, this trip, we're going to decide it's just better for us to stay at a hotel because it helps us have our own space and we can recharge in between events. We thank you for understanding that, and we just can't wait to celebrate with you on the day.
I like that. Now, what is a wish them well boundary?
The wish them well boundary is a gracious way to disengage, because when you're at a wedding, you're going to see exes sometimes in today's world, right? You don't know who you're going to run into. So you might get along with your in-laws, you may not. You might see an ex that you get along with, or you may not. But what is a wish them well boundary that is wish them well? It's great to see you. Keep the conversation focused on the couple because that's what we're there for, and then gracefully exit, whether it's I need to use the restroom, I see Mark over there, I forgot to tell him something, whatever that may be. Gracefully disengage.
I like it. Any other final words of wisdom? We got about a minute left.
I'd say, you know what, keep sure that your message is to avoid saying yes to the stress. This is a time of celebration, and that's where the focus needs to be, but do not disregard your importance of self-care during this time.
All right, Anastasia Turchetta, thank you as always for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to share Anastasia's advice on BloomTampaBay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.
The following portion of Bloom is sponsored by Air Zero.
Welcome back to Bloom. In Florida, we know the importance of air conditioning and having the right support. While there are many different types of technicians in the heating and cooling industry, it really is important to have well-trained professionals working in your home. Joining me now from Air Zero with more is owner Troy DeLand. Troy, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Gayle.
So this is a busy time of year for you guys because it is hot outside, and this is when people really need help keeping their air conditioning systems up and running.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we know down here in Florida, there's all kinds of other things going on. Not only throughout the year, we're trying to keep our house cool, but we're also trying to keep it clean and healthy as well. So that's why it's important to find those companies that actually work within the indoor air quality realm and the cooling realm.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for us here at Bloom to introduce companies like you to our viewers, because you want to trust the people coming into your home.
Absolutely. Talk about a vulnerability for the homeowner. You have this person coming into your home you've never met before. So we spend a lot of time with our technicians training them, not only on how to take care of the unit, but how to be respectful to your home and how to interact with the customer in a way that, we can find out what's going on with the system. Are you living comfortably in your home under the current conditions, right? So they can help out.
And you're veteran owned and operated?
We are, yeah. I bought the company about 3 years ago after leaving a long career in the military. And since the military is so similar to the trades, I thought, what a great opportunity to go ahead and kind of extend my service, not to the nation anymore, but definitely to the community.
Now, when you're dealing with air conditioning and heating systems, it's something that needs to be serviced regularly so that you can keep the system, because you were talking about the health of it all, and that's important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, our technicians come out and they're properly trained on how to maintain those systems. So we like to come out before the summertime, so we've been getting a lot of maintenances, and at the end of the season we go back out, because during those couple months where we got extreme heat, those systems are working overtime.
So yeah, and what are some signs that homeowners should be on the lookout for when it comes to, if their system's getting overworked?
Well, if you look at a lot of the smart thermostats they have nowadays, will actually tell you how long it's running throughout the day. So it's important to have some type of schedule that you're familiar with, right? Where you can, if you're gone all day for work, I mean, I wouldn't set it at super cold, right? I'd probably set it a little bit higher, but I wouldn't set it super high either, because once you get home, which is also usually the hottest part of the day, your system is trying to overwork just to cool that space.
So at Air Zero, you have teams of people that go out and help with repair and maintenance?
Correct. We have maintenance technicians that take care of just those machines that are currently working, but they make them work better. And then we have service technicians that go out and address the issues when you have a system that goes down. Either it's a blower motor or it's a condenser fan or whatever it happens to be. Our service technicians can take care of it.
All right, well, it's such a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with our viewers.
All right, thanks, Gail.
All right, if you're looking for an AC company to take care of your cooling and indoor air quality needs, call the professionals at Air Zero at 727-249-0557 or scan the QR code on your screen. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.
The preceding portion of Bloom was sponsored by Air Zero. The following portion of Bloom is sponsored by Renewal by Anderson of Tampa.
Welcome back to Bloom. It's time for your window to the weekend, presented by Renewal by Anderson of Tampa. And it is time to get ready for the second annual Picnic in the Park, a day of food, fun, and friends. Joining us now to tell us all about it is the CEO of Pushing to Purpose, Gayle Simmons. Gayle, it's great to see you.
You as well, you as well.
So what can we expect at this event, second annual?
Yes, so honestly, it's just a fun time in the weekend with the community to get together with each other and fellowship with each other. I think that is important, especially as women, to come together and just get to know each other and build a community, especially in the city of Tampa. I thought it was something that was needed, and I wanted to be the answer to that.
So what exactly will be happening once everyone gets there?
So everyone is tasked with bringing their own color-themed basket.
Okay.
So if you wear red, you bring red snacks, drinks, foods, things like that. And then when you get there, we'll all bring it together, share it, have a good time. And then everyone that is attending will also get an exclusive premiere to my live podcast recording of P2P sessions.
Ah, I like that.
Yes.
So where is this all going down?
So it's going to be at Hebron Family Life Center, and the address is 13507 North Nebraska Avenue in Tampa. It's actually my old church. My granddad is the pastor there. Love Pastor Gayle Warren for allowing me to use his space as well.
That's really cool. So who's participating in this?
So I have a few panelists that are entrepreneurs. Rebecca Davis, Lonnie Simmons, my sister-in-law, I love her to death. Charity Kid. It's fellow people in the Christian community that I saw that were in business, and I call them Bible baddies because we're in the Bible and in our business, and also just balancing life.
And what makes you personally so passionate about getting the community together?
It's something that I was gifted with. I feel that I take my faith very seriously, and I also feel that God led me to be a change agent in the community. So I did that with obedience.
Well, I think too, a lot of people think that, having faith or having a belief system means just going to church every Sunday, but you start to learn that what you learn there is how you live your life every day of the week, and it can kind of be a guide of pushing you in the right direction.
Absolutely. What I have learned in the 23 years of my life is that everything that I've learned inside the four walls of church is supposed to be taken out into the world, and so you're supposed to share those things with the people that don't know, because there might be somebody that will never touch a church, that may never get to experience God the way that I have, and so I think that it's my duty as a believer to live the lifestyle and be an example.
And that will maybe give people a taste of what it's all about if they attend this event.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I have to tell you, I think this is a really good idea. Obviously, if it's in year 2, it's definitely being embraced by the community. So thank you so much for sharing it with our Bloom viewers. And don't forget, you have to coordinate those baskets with your outfit. It's gotta be color-coded. All right, the second annual picnic in the park is happening this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will put all the details on bloomtampabay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this, so don't go away.
The preceding portion of Bloom was sponsored by Renewal by Anderson of Tampa.
It's time for this week's Bloom Boost, health news you might have missed this week. A recent study focusing on people who recently experienced an episode of low back pain shows that walking can be hugely beneficial. Researchers say regular walking significantly reduced the risk of future episodes and healthcare visits. Participants also found walking improved their quality of life, sleep, and mood. All right, now it's time for today's Bloom trivia question. How much of the menu served to athletes at the Summer Olympics this year will be sourced from France? 50, 75, 80, or 100%? The answer is 80%. The sheer volume of ingredients needed for the Paris 2024 Olympic Village is staggering. Some say it's basically the largest catering job to ever exist. The Olympics food provider, Sodexo Live, has had to buy up entire fields of produce and farms complete with egg and chicken production from all across France. As you can imagine, preparing for 15,000 athletes and support staff to eat 40,000 meals per day in a 24/7 dining operation requires a lot of hustle. Well, thank you so much for tuning into Bloom today. You can catch Bloom anytime by following us on social media. We're on all major platforms, so get a behind-the-scenes look at all of the innovative breakthrough health and wellness conversations and incredible guests that we have right here on Bloom. And don't forget to check out our podcast, The Bloom Health Club. You can catch it live on Facebook and YouTube on Mondays at 2 p.m. We take a deep dive and have extended conversations with some of the top guests that we have right here on Bloom. You can watch our podcast anytime on YouTube or listen on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Well, we hope you'll tune in again on the next Bloom presented by Lifeguard Imaging. We'll tell you how the city of Tampa is celebrating the 4th of July and how you can get in on all the action. And Food Network celebrity chef Jonathan Rodriguez is making tuna tataki in the Bloom kitchen. So stay healthy, everyone, and I will see you on the next Bloom.
Content segments during Bloom were paid for by Air Zero and Renewal by Anderson of Tampa.
Call now 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today.